Alright, what's going on, boys and girls? So we are here with another video, this particular one. Why you shouldn't use Linux, unpopular opinion. Let's see what homie's rolling with to see if he's got semblance of intelligence or if my ulcer is gonna start kicking up.
So Linux is a weird thing when you think about it, because despite being in most cases outshined by the main OS everyone uses, Windows or macOS if you're one of those people, then there should be really no place in the world for Linux. And yet despite that, it has quite a big and dedicated and also rather argumentative community around it, which makes it perfect material for my unpopular opinion series.
The argumentative community is because the one thing is not one thing or one company or one place who controls it. Opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one. Some people have two. Linux is just filled, unfortunately, with a lot of assholes.
Because I have some thoughts on Linux and how dumb the whole thing is, at least up to a point, making the whole thing seem more like this hipsters OS, the OS for people who want to be different. So I decided to delve into the world of Linux, discover everything there is to discover, and truly understand what it means to be Linux. Wait. Now the first thing I need to address though is that there's lots of reasons to use Linux in very specific circumstances. After all, if you really need a very specific OS for example servers, or a computer for some very specific coding, then there's most likely some Linux distro to fit your needs because of how many there are of those things, and because of how customizable the very core of Linux is. So there's most likely something that will fit whatever very specific thing you need. And if I ever have some kind of server running for whatever reason, then I'll probably use some kind of Linux distro on it, as they can be so specifically manipulated and changed to have whatever you want. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves, because there's also plenty you can do to change up your Windows, as there's tools like
Here's the thing. Go into an OS and view it as an appliance. Doesn't matter the OS. It's a novel concept. This particular machine I do recordings on is all based on Linux. This particular machine, HDPC, that's specifically to Linux. It boots up into Kodi. This boots up into all my creative stuff when I log in. It is just like any other OS. You make it what it is. Everything I do, and most people view technology as, is an appliance. It's a task for a job.
your registry editor or the PowerShell, which you can use to really spice up your Windows experience. Or if you need to change up a few more things just to make it, you know, more suited to whatever you're doing. And that's where the hipster aspect comes in, because even though Windows has everything you could possibly need, people still use Linux in quite a few situations where it honestly doesn't seem like it's required, especially when it comes to home use and just like running a normal PC like here. So I decided to look into some of the main reasons people use Linux, and of course try to debunk them, because that's what this show is about. So let's start off with one of the bigger things people say, and one I guess do agree with, and that is Linux is way less intensive on the hardware, meaning that even on older computers it will run. And it's a good reason why so many people on older hardware switch over from Windows to Linux, because that way they can keep that older hardware going for a few more months or even years. Sure, the hardware itself is still bad, but when it comes to actually running an OS and doing things like browsing the web or whatever else you may be doing on your PC, then it will definitely make things feel a bit smoother there. However, don't kid yourself and think it will make your PC never age or something. However, one of the big reasons for people to use Linux is security and privacy, and I have an entire other episode of Unpopular Opinions planned on talking about privacy, because let's just say it looks like I may have some controversial thoughts on that as well. And I guess there is something hipstery in the very essence of caring so much about your privacy, because after all, if you think about it logically, what is wrong with just Microsoft or whoever else collecting data on how you use your PC? Like, there's literally nothing inherently wrong with that, but people are going extreme distances.
It's the amount. If you're fine with a keylogger, I remember 10 years ago when a keylogger was considered bad. Now it's considered a quality of life improvement because everything you type on the virtual or physical keyboard gets sent back to Microsoft. Try reading the EULA. It's not about the fact that there's information being sent back. It's about you have no choice in this matter. You either use the OS or you don't. That's the key. The whole argument for privacy, I'm just going to keep it really short. The whole argument for privacy is the user should be in control of what is and is not sent back. They are not. They don't even have the option to what they send or do not send. That is the key. Privacy is like security. You're not going to mitigate everything. The only way to do that, don't go online. Just like security though, it's how much can you mitigate what companies can and cannot know about you. And that should be your choice. And a lot of companies don't give you the option. It's either an all or nothing thing. And that is where the problem is.
Not only installing Linux, but then on their Linux machines going way further just to make sure that they're never tracked even a bit in any way possible. Which is like, why? What's the big deal? And yes, Windows does have some ways of tracking what you do on a PC and collecting data on how you use it, mainly for the purpose of understanding how people use the services so they know how to better them, no.
And also so they can create shadow profiles, no ads to sell you, to cater to a particular worldview, to box you into a corner. Try doing a Google search without logging in. You'll get far different results. Go to DuckDuckGo. You'll get far different results. The difference is when you log into or use these services, they are limiting and targeting what they show you based on what they think you want to see. And then the reality is you want an unfiltered world. You want an unfiltered view sometimes. And they don't give you that option. It's not about just, it's made to make it better. Again, it's this weird word. Linux users like this one thing that apparently, I'm going to guess you don't understand. It's called control. From the core OS to services and everything else that they decide to jump into. That it's a control and choice thing.
No big deal. And I'm completely fine with it. And most people should be fine with it because, again, it doesn't really affect anything. And like I said, I have a whole video planned on that topic. Because like you probably have guessed, I have some thoughts on privacy and to get out into the world. Another reason I've seen people stating is that Linux is free. And yes, although it is true, but notice whenever people talk about getting a new PC, they almost never mention anything about, the costs of Windows or thinking about the OS, because most likely, if you're buying a pre-build, then it will most likely come pre-installed with Windows.
And if you're going to talk the cost argument, the cost of a Windows license is built into the PC. So when you pay for the PC, you're actually paying for the Windows license. This is not rocket science. This is not new. It's been going on for over 30 years.
Windows, and most likely Windows 10, but also most people who are buying a new PC will most likely just buy a grey market key, which you can get for like 10 to 20 pounds. And for that just 10 to 20 pounds extra, you're getting a way superior OS experience than Linux. From the stuff you get, to how clean everything.
I'm all for gray market and everything else. I'm not going to lie. The problem is most people, while they are looking for those deals, are also have the run the very high risk of their copy of Windows 10 updating, and well, you're no longer active. I'll let you determine what that means. So much for security.
Everything is, to the support you're gonna get, to the feature set you have at your disposal, to how polished everything is, to how coded everything is, all of that is better with Windows, because you have these whole.
And you know, I'm okay with opinions and things being, things being coded better and more cohesive and all the other stuff. Do you know how often you get bitch slapped back into the old almost Arrow experience, which is Windows Vista at this point, instead of the modern Metro or whatever experience? Consistency is not a strong point I would point out for Windows at all.
Whole large teams of people developing the thing that have probably provided resources worth millions of dollars.
This is going to be one of those videos I stop a lot at. Lots of developers. Linux kernel alone, last count, was somewhere in between 3,300 and 3,600 developers just on the kernel. That doesn't count the 1,000 plus developers that work on Debian. That, yeah.
Seeing how, it's all carried out by Microsoft, one of the biggest companies on the planet. And yes, if you were to run into some problems with Linux, there are definitely lots of forums and communities and discords and whatever else you can join to get some help. But seeing how specific and niche so many of these distros are, compared to this one universal Windows platform, unless you're still one of those people who use Windows 7 or 8 for whatever reason, then of course you have more luck finding more people to help you if you're using Windows, because it's a bigger product and more people are involved with it. Coming back to price though, when I was looking for reasons people used Linux, let me quickly go over one of the literally dumbest reasons I've seen, and that is that apparently it's more ethical to use Linux because it's free compared to something like macOS or Windows, because, God forbid that someone gets paid for the software they spend.
Now, I'm no fan of the Free Software Foundation. I've made my views on the FSF very, very clear. I don't care what people use. That's up to them. Free Software Foundation wants people to have the freedom of choice. I believe in the freedom of choice. If people want to use a proprietary app, go ahead. Don't care. Those people you're referring to are what we call ideologues. Some of us in the community will call them zealots, because these are the idiots that will bash this shit over your head and say everything that you do is wrong and it's GNU/Linux. We don't all fall into that category, thank you. Now, as far as ethical, that again, ideologues, I'd say open source is just a better development model.
Age is making. What a novel idea. People getting paid for software? I imagine these are the people who are still harkening back to the good old days of shareware back in the 90s. And it more seems like a Trojan horse of an argument, hiding behind the face of these ethics that make no sense in the first place, to make it sound better than them just not wanting to spend that extra few pounds.
It's not about the it's not about the cost. It's about development. It's about building a community. It's about people having the right to do with the software what they will. Look at Adobe telling a whole entire country that, hey, your prior versions of Creative Suite are going to no longer be active. Fuck off. Like, that's a problem. You don't own anything. I can kind of get behind that. What I can't get behind is like the religious zealotry that goes with it, because I'm not going to sit here and lambast somebody else for making a decision that they find a tool to be better used for them.
for a way superior product. So I hope you can see now where I'm coming with the whole Linux is the OS for hipsters thing, because it definitely seems that way, and people in the community are definitely not helping that image. But let me know down in the comments below what you think of Linux. If you think that what I said is completely wrong, tell me why. If you agree with me or have some other points to make, just whatever it is, tell me down in the comments below, and also tell me what other things you think I should do unpopular opinions videos about. And definitely stay tuned to my next episode, which will be about online privacy. If you found any of my thoughts on it in this video interesting, then definitely stay tuned for that one. Also check out my previous unpopular opinions video where I talked about why backing up your data isn't that useful as most people say. And also other upcoming episodes I have planned will be talking about things like the online digital artist scene and also sound cards and optical drives. So if any of those topics sound interesting for you, remember to subscribe and hit that bell button so you know when those videos drop. Also, I'd love to thank my Patreon Barry Yule for supporting the channel on Patreon. Thank you ever so much, and if you want to support the channel, then check out my Patreon down in the video description below. Even $1 goes a long way.
Okay, so after a minute, so I about had about 5 minutes of actual content in this 7.5-minute video. Short version, you can have your opinions. I know nothing about this guy's channel. I don't care to. These are literally just random searches that I find that, oh, that interesting. Let's find out why they say that. I don't know history. I don't know any of it. Short version, you want to call it the OS for hipsters. You can make the argument that if you are a fanboy of anything or think this is the only way to do something, you're a hipster for whatever you are using. An open mind does not make somebody a hipster. Ideals don't make somebody a hipster. What makes somebody a hipster is they think it's the thing to do. It's oh, I'm going to use a Mac because it's not Windows. No, I use Linux because it's the best tool for the job. Like, that's just what it is. And yes, and do note, this entire video is being done on Linux. There are things that some OSs can do better and others can't. Mac OS still easy, one of the most optimized for content creation. I'm not going to make any quorums or arguments about that. It is what it is. So, you know, Windows has its issues. You know, the fact you still have to registry edit shit to get it to do what it should be able to do by default. Barked updates, take your pick. Like there is Windows isn't Windows isn't a paradise. So I got nothing really else to rag about. You can have your opinions. I'm not going to agree with basically any of them. You know, it's not about whether or not it's an unpopular opinion. It's whether about like there's any facts to it. And I don't think you dug deep enough into Linux to actually have a actual factual opinion. So that's kind of my take. Anyway, you guys know what to do. Patreon, Inigala, all that stuff down below. I'll catch you on the flip. Peace.